Hi everyone, hope you all are doing very well today and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 tips for how to improve in the game mode Heroes vs Villains in Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you guys like this type of content with me providing my tips for improvement in Battlefront 2, let me know down in the comments. Now without further ado, let's get into it. So my first and most important tip for you guys is to stick with your team. Now with Heroes vs Villains, anything goes in this game mode. It's not like Hero Showdown where you'd expect only 1v1s. Everybody's going to be swinging and shooting at each other. The majority of your fights will be against multiple enemies, and by yourself, it can be very, very difficult. Sticking with your team will increase your chances of survival, it will allow for your abilities, health, and stamina to recharge, and it will make it much easier to pick apart the enemy. Now, even if your team does die, it's very important to re-engage together, rather than just running in one by one. If you respawn and run back into the fight thinking you can take down all 4 enemies at once, you'll most likely be put down on the spot. You'll then stagger your respawn timer while your teammates are fighting a 3v4. Even if you do manage to pick one of them off, you could have achieved even more damage if you had your team to support you. Now I know most of us, including me, don't play with comms, so you're relying on randoms to help you out. Even if you stick with a random teammate, your chances of winning the fight are much higher rather than just running in by yourself. So my second tip for you guys is to make a mental note of your enemy's ability cooldowns. Now I know this tip is very excessive, but over time, as you play more and more with heroes, you start to pick up how long it usually takes for your abilities to recharge. Understanding when your opponent's abilities are on cooldown allows you to make the decision when to play aggressively and when to stay back and defend. Now I wouldn't keep track of every ability your enemy has, only the ones that will leave you exposed for some time. Some abilities that do this can be Darth Vader's choke, Anakin's pull, Kylo's freeze, Rey's dash, and numerous others. If you were to get caught by any of these abilities, you could be killed almost instantly if the entire enemy team is targeting you. So as I said, if you see a Darth Vader use his choke ability early, you know you can play a little bit more on the offensives since you don't have to worry about being exposed. My third tip for you guys is to diversify who you play as. The reason why this is so important is because each character has some form of a counter regardless of how you play them. Lightsaber heroes, unfortunately, can't attack very far, making them weak against blaster heroes. On the contrary, blaster heroes can do damage at any range, but are exposed to any and all attacks. If you prefer just to have fun and want to master a certain character, then go ahead and stick with whoever you want. But if you want to win more of your matches and learn the inner workings of how to play and counter each hero, try switching it up. Now me, I prefer to play with a lightsaber, but if I'm going against a Boba Fett who's flying around, avoiding all of my force abilities, I can find and switch to someone who can deal with him. I'd also add that if your team consists entirely of lightsabers or entirely of blasters, try picking the opposite of your team to help support them. Helping out your team is one of the best ways to secure a victory in Heroes vs Villains. So my fourth tip for you guys is to understand the environment regarding each map. I would say most characters perform relatively similar regardless of the map, but some can do better depending on which map you are on. For example, if you're playing on the MC-85 Star Cruiser or Jabba's Palace with very tight hallways and corridors, close-range characters will excel on these maps. Some of these characters can include lightsaber heroes, Bosk, BB-8, and Captain Phasma because a lot of their damage is done when enemies are crowded together at close range. Now, if you were to look at much wider maps like the Abandoned Rebel Outpost on Crate, blaster characters will do very well on this map because everything's flat and very far away. Now, I do want to also mention that a couple of maps do contain spots in entire areas where you can fall off and die instantly. Some of these include Cloud City on Bespin, the cloning facility on Kamino, the Coaxium mine on Kessel, and numerous other maps with smaller sections to fall off. It's best to be aware of these spots because if you get caught by a force ability that will launch you, it's most of the time instant death. But it can also be a free kill if you can get the jump on someone and knock them off the map. I will also say this. If you want to annoy the enemy team while you're on one of the 3 maps listed previously, running Darth Maul's 2 star cards that increase his range and throw distance of his choke attack will guarantee quite a lot of environmental kills. Now, not necessarily a great way to get better, but a fun way to kill the enemies. So my last and final tip for you guys would be stamina management. Stamina for lightsaber heroes is so crucial in this game mode because you will always be constantly fighting someone, unless you just respawn, of course. Each character has a unique number of stamina that can also be altered by certain star cards, whether that be blocking lightsaber attacks, blaster shots, or attacking. Now, I'm not going to be going over each character's stats when it comes to their stamina, but I will say which character is the best and worst in terms of that. If you'd like to find out the exact numbers for each lightsaber character, I'll leave a link to a Reddit post going over all the stamina numbers. So for the light side, Obi-Wan Kenobi is overall the best at everything when it comes to stamina. Plus, he has multiple star cards to increase it. And for the worst stamina, I would say it's Anakin Skywalker. He does have a star card that helps with his low stamina, but you have to deal damage over time to receive more, so not something you get right off the bat. His damage and force abilities do, however, make up for his lack of stamina, so he still is a very viable lightsaber wielder. For the dark side, Count Dooku takes the cake for the highest stamina. He too has a star card that increases stamina for blocking and attacking, similar to Obi-Wan. With the worst stamina, I would have to say it's General Grievous. His stamina can get absolutely drained by blasters and lightsabers, but thankfully he has two abilities that give him protection and allow him to regen his stamina. Overall, I'm not saying either of these two characters are bad, I just don't think their stamina is the best in terms of heroes versus villains. But as I said earlier, stamina is very crucial because without it, you can't deal damage to your enemies, and it will leave you exposed if you run out. So the best way for me to manage my stamina is to only attack if my enemies are staggered, or if their stamina is low and mine is full. Now when it comes to blocking, dodging is your best friend because you can disregard any loss of stamina when doing so. And I want to also give you guys one bonus tip. This is kind of going over what I said previously, which is dodging. Now I mentioned this in one of my previous guides, but I'll say it again. Dodging gives you the ability to ignore any lightsaber or force attack if timed correctly. It can also provide armor/damage reduction when getting shot at by any blaster. Now most characters get 2 dodges, while Count Dooku and Rey can have 3, depending if you do equip one of her star cards that allow her to have 3 dodges. Once you master the art of dodging your enemy's attacks, you'll be guaranteed to start doing better in Battlefront 2. It takes time, it takes practice. Once you figure out the timing for each character's abilities and how quick your enemies swing their lightsabers, you'll be able to determine when to dodge and which direction to move. So that is it. Those are my top 5 tips on how to improve in heroes versus villains, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do also have another video going over the basic tips for how to improve overall in Battlefront 2, and I'll leave a link for that in the description as well. I had lots of fun making this video, and if you guys have any other tips or any feedback, let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching.